Voice of Vaping. In each show, we share the latest about regulations and things you need to know, plus upcoming conferences and fests, along with interviews with the movers and shakers in this fabulous vape space. Are you looking to get into this ever-expanding marketplace? Do you want to master this industry? Listen up as Norm Bauer, the Vape Mentor, shares it all. And here's your host, Norm Bauer.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back. This is part 3 of Vape News Radio, issue number 6. This is our 6th show, so by the time this is all said and done, we will have 18 individual episodes out there. And again, you can go to Stitcher, STITCHER.com, and go ahead and subscribe to the podcast. We've got over 20,000 people doing it, and thank you so much for participating in that. And we hope that you're getting some good education, some motivation. And again, we're not your fun, frivolous, talk about all kinds of goofy stuff. Not that there's anything wrong with podcasts that do that, but
this isn't just for hobbyists. This is for people who want to get serious.
It is, but I try to keep it light. I try to keep it fun, simply because that's just the way I roll. But here we're talking about, what Vape News Radio is all about and what Vape News Magazine is all about. It's really about you, the person who vapes, or the person who is in the industry, whether you're B2B or B2C. The suppliers out there, a lot of the information I share is good information for you to know, whether you manufacture your own juice or whether you want to manufacture your own juice. And if you do, give me a call, because our juice manufacturing facility is going to be up and running.
We had somebody tweet in last show, and we didn't get this in. How big is the industry, and how big do you think it'll get over the next, say, 5 years?
Well,
any projections?
Yes, indeed. All right, so right now, by all measure, it's about a $2.2 billion, that's a B, $2.2 billion industry. But considering where it was, here we are halfway through 2014. If you look at where it was, let's just say 3 years ago, let's say 2011, the industry was probably certainly less than $1 billion. I would say probably less than $500 million.
Wow.
Yeah, it's grown significantly. Projections, Bonnie Herzog, who I love and tout and think she's an amazing seer in the industry, is saying that the industry will grow tenfold in the next 10 years.
Tenfold? So
yeah.
It could be $10, $20 billion.
Well, actually more, because she says that in 10 years it'll surpass, quote-unquote, conventional tobacco, which is $35 billion. So that means it has to grow actually more than tenfold. I think she's a little bit optimistic myself, but if you bring into account the e-cigarette industry, which is, again, different than the juice space, different than the vaping industry. But, you look at the Altrias, you look at the Lorillards, you look at the, R.J. Reynolds and now R.J. Vapors, and you look at all these companies, they are exploding. So the $35 billion number by, say, 2022 is not inconceivable. My projections, I'm a little bit more close thinking here. So here we are in mid-2014, and my projections are in the next 18 to 36 months. So let's roll this out at a maximum of 3 years. So that would make it 2017.
Right.
By 2017, I think the industry will grow 2 to 3 times. So that means you're going to be looking at somewhere between $4.5 billion to maybe a $7, possibly $8 billion industry.
So that means more sophisticated retailers and manufacturers and everything.
Yeah.
At that kind of dollar figure, people aren't just playing around anymore here.
No. We're talking some serious money here.
Which is what you talked about in the last show. You gave us some tips to think about, and you kept making the point that as much as you might like this or be a hobbyist or be a passionate person for this new industry, it's going to take more than just passion and interest to succeed in this, particularly as it goes forward and there's a shakeout and people look for bigger and better retailers.
I could not have asked for a better segue because, again, if you're joining us in Part 3, Part 2, I was discussing the top 7 questions to ask before you open up your vape shop. And I was planning on getting through all 7 of them in Section 2, but obviously, got long-winded like I typically do. But we were talking about the last question was, what is your budget to open up a shop, and do you have money to do everything you need to do? And here's the reality of it, is that for years I considered myself a businessman. I was an entrepreneur, I was a solopreneur, but I had not been a business owner. which means that I didn't have a brick-and-mortar location, I didn't have employees, I didn't have to deal with city regulations, and I didn't have to deal with a lot of the stuff that you have to do when you have...
Insurance, slip and fall. There are people that go around and try and fall on the premises just so they can sue you.
Yeah.
Crazy stuff like that.
Yeah, I never had to worry about that stuff. But so, over the years, I got to be a business owner as well. And if you are looking to open up a store, you absolutely must be a business owner too. So here's what I want you to write down, because again, this is homework time, guys. The question was, what is my budget to open up a shop? Do I have enough money to do the following? And I read off that list in part 2. So here's what I want you to write down. What are your sources of money, and how much is it? If it's just $50,000 in your mattress, you write down $50,000 in your mattress. If there's $20,000 in checking and $10,000 in savings and $20,000 that you need to liquidate from your stock account, that's fine. If you are borrowing money, which again, that's a whole different conversation, which we're not going to get into, what are your sources of money and how much is it? So I want to roll on to question number 4. Might seem a little bit self-serving, and the truth of the matter is, regardless of whether you contact me or anyone that is experienced, the question is, number 4, have I gotten counsel or guidance from those with more experience, either in other businesses or in this specific area?
And that's got to be hard because you're dealing with a pretty new industry. So it's not like there's a council of retailers right now that you can go visit.
No. And the reality of it is that you can go to SBA, you can go to SCORE, you can go to community colleges and take business courses and accounting courses, and you can do all those things. And believe me, there's nothing wrong with it. A lot of the information, I would say, the huge majority of it is very dated, it's very antiquated, and it still holds true, don't get me wrong, but this industry is brand new. I will guarantee you that 6 months from now, by the time we roll into 2015, we're going to be talking about business in a different way. And so, I'm not necessarily a fan of business planning, but I am of business modeling, but the business model is going to change probably every quarter. So question number 4 is, have I gotten counsel or guidance from those with more experience, either in other businesses or in specific areas? And you know what? Even if it's your parents, that's awesome. You might come from an entrepreneurial background. You might have a mom and dad who have had their own businesses, and maybe brothers or siblings that have been entrepreneurial, maybe from early on. That's awesome. Learn from them, please, because I, as an entrepreneur myself, I don't want to see you fail because of ignorance or because of lack of information. If you fail because you do something wrong, that's just the way it goes. So question number 4 has an answer. I want you to write down where you can go for help and who do you know that can assist or coach you.
And, of course, we'll say Vape Mentor right at the top of the list there.
I won't, but you did.
What's your number if they want to call you? Come on.
949-495-6162.
And do you give them a free 1-hour session or something here?
Oh, Paul, you're making me tout myself, but yes.
Okay.
Yes, I respond to emails repeatedly.
All right, let's say, again, I'm guessing that a lot of the people are young in this industry.
Yeah.
Maybe this is their first business.
Yeah.
Maybe their parents are backing them. And so we've always looked for Junior to step up and find something he's really passionate about. This is something he's really into. He was going to open a skate shop. Now he's going to open a vape shop. Really doesn't know much about business. Wouldn't this make mom and dad a little happier that somebody a little older and wiser's got their back here?
Well, as a parent myself, I certainly want my kids to be doing things strategically and with more focus as opposed to just on a whim. And, you mentioned something that I'm not going to, go too much off topic on, but if you are a parent, or if you are someone who's borrowing money from a relative, I'm going to tell you right now, with no uncertainty, get everything in writing. This is not a handshake deal. Nothing will screw up a family relationship or a friendship worse than money challenges and money issues. So I'm not going to go down that Pandora's hole because it's a nasty one. Question number 5. Do I really understand this industry? And here's what I mean by that. You will not go into this knowing everything about everything out there because the truth is no one does, and I am not arrogant enough to think that I have every answer too. One of my special reports that I'm going to actually do soon is talking about the changing demographics of the industry because there's a very strong market that is presenting itself, and it's older females. It's baby boomer females.
Older females. That's not an audience I would have pictured.
Well, again, I'm just going to leave that teaser out there, but what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to do a couple of recorded interviews with people who fit this demographic. They are older, as in baby boomers, which means post 50, who are now entering the vaping industry. And so some of these people have a great background of entrepreneurial experience, and usually they are lacking the technical know-how. And don't let that be a deterrent. So when I ask that question, which is question number 5, do I really understand this industry? I want you to write down, where am I getting education about the industry? Have I researched enough? And again, this is not just being able to tear stuff apart. This is about understanding your city, your state, the FDA, the deeming regulations. Know what's going on within zoning, because all these things affect you, absolutely guaranteed, with no doubt whatsoever. All right, so let's bring it on home here. Okay, this is where it gets fun. So again, we're talking about the top 7 questions to ask before you open up your vape shop. This is Vape News Radio, the voice of vaping. I am your host, Norm Bauer. So of the top 7 questions to ask before you open up your vape shop, so far everything that I've posed to you has been, legitimate, hardcore business questions. But now... Yeah,
you talked about money, you talked about knowledge, you talked about location, the typical kind of things you would if you were opening any business.
Yeah. Now we're going to venture into, I'm not going to call it Oz or La La Land or, more theoretical space, but what happens if things happen that you can't foresee?
Ouch.
All right, so here's a couple of questions. Do I have enough money in reserve? That's a question that you have to ask yourself. Have you borrowed money from friends, family, or partners? Is that arrangement formalized in writing? Again, this we just talked about a few moments ago. What if you lose it all? And again, I am not advocating some type of fear-based strategy, but I really want to make sure that anyone and everyone who gets in this industry do it with logical, rational, and conscious decision-making abilities.
So don't bet what you don't have.
Don't bet what you don't have. And, one of the sayings that we've all heard before is hope for the best but plan for the worst. And back when I had my previous radio show, one of my associates had a saying that I use frequently, and he said, hope is not a business plan. And what that means is that, you can't just do vaping as an industry, as a business, just based on your passion. It just does not work that way. No business does. You have to have passion to encourage you to get started, but you have to have some type of foundation underneath you. It's like, you don't put up walls, you don't put a roof on a house that doesn't have any type of foundational structure. And, even my business in VapeMentors, and in formulating the radio show, this didn't just happen overnight. This happened over, several weeks, and in some cases several months, to actually flush it out, to find out what the market wants, what the market is looking for, and to give people what you want. Guys who are listening to this, it's not about me. It's not about Vape News Radio. It's not about Vape News Magazine. It's really about you. What can we do to empower you, either as a casual user or as someone who is, looking to or already in that space? So, enough of the downside. I'm going to leave you with some happy thoughts, some happy thoughts. So, question number 7.
Drum roll.
Yeah, I thought you were going to chime in there. Okay. So, and I'm going to read this one in its finality because I think it's important. So, question number 7 is, what if I really succeed? Wow.
Be careful what you wish for.
All right. Thank you for that. All right. So I'm going to read my prose here. Good things can happen as easily as bad things, but realistically, there's thousands of ways to screw up and just a few ways to succeed. With proper guidance, consulting, financial acumen and resources, and a little bit of luck, you can dominate your space. Too much success can be as dangerous as failure. So plan ahead and create a business model and update it every 3 to 6 months. So, again, I've given you homework with all the previous 6 questions, so I want you to dream a little bit. You have the passion, you have the commitment, so what is it you want to create? And for those of you who have stores, please, I want you to go through this exercise too, because, the store that you have today is probably not going to be the store you have next year. It's a changing space, and you better believe that you need to stay on top of things because there's always going to be things coming your way, and there's always going to be, if you look at the SWOT analysis, there's always going to be threats that are potentially causing you damage. But I want you to dream a little bit And in the special report that is on my website, VapeMentors.com, there's an ebook. And I talk about the fact that sometimes too much success could be dangerous as well. And sometimes people get cocky. They get arrogant.
It's like walking into Vegas and hitting it big. Suddenly you're a genius.
Yeah.
Suddenly you know everything.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what they count on. You're just going to throw it all away and then some.
Yeah, and to put this in terms that a lot of people understand, back when the real estate market was really kicking ass, not this time, but the first time around, between 2005 and 2008, I had my radio show, which was about real estate and finance. And we had so many people who thought they were bloody real estate gurus. They thought they could do no harm because they bought a property in Vegas, it went up. They bought a property in Phoenix, it went up. They bought a property in Florida, it went up. They bought a property in Southern California, it went up. And suddenly, they have, from one house to two houses to a half a dozen rentals, and, it's like more and more and more because I'm a friggin' genius. Well, the truth is... Same
with the stock market. I bought one, and they didn't see it wasn't them, it was the market.
It was the market, yeah. Right. Even a clock that stopped is right twice a day. So, right. Sometimes these things are going to happen. All right, so... Again, this has been a little bit of a special edition of Vape News Radio. There are no interviews. There were no interviews today. So instead, I filled it in with some of the top 7 questions to ask before you open up your vape store.
But nobody wants to hear these things, do they? I mean, they're excited. They're passionate. I'm going to do this. Don't give me any negatives. I'm just going to jump in there. And then they flounder and fail. And what you're trying to do is decrease the odds of that. Increase the success odds. And then not just fail, but maybe they don't understand what they've got when they've got it, so they don't adapt to I'm the only one in town, so of course I'm going to succeed. Then 3 more open up, and I'm not such a genius anymore here.
Yeah, it's easy to get your ego deflated, and it's easy to get your pride and your confidence deflated in any industry, not just this one, so be mindful. All right, so what I was going to do, which I didn't do because we took a little bit longer, or I took a little bit longer with the top 7 questions, here's the top 5 questions that we get asked, and we're not going to touch on them today. I'm just going to tell you
a teaser.
A teaser, yeah, how about that, a little teaser. The top 5 questions that we get asked. 1, how much does it cost to open a brick-and-mortar store? 2, how much does an average store make? 3, how many juices should we carry? How many mods should we carry? 4, what kind of license or licenses do I need? And question number 5, what do you think about the FDA? Is there a chance that my store could be closed? So I'm not going to answer those questions today.
Today, yeah. But in the future. We'll think about all of those.
Yes. And so I want to give you all an encouragement to write in with your questions. And what I'm going to start doing is I'm going to take a question of the week, and if your question gets picked, again, it can't be one of these 5 questions because I've already heard it a multitude of times. But if you have a question that I think is interesting enough for the vast audience to hear, we're going to give you some bling. We're going to give you some good stuff. Probably.
I want a T-shirt.
You know what? All right.
I want a T-shirt.
All right, dudes. I got enough T-shirts for everyone.
I'll even give you a good question. The other question I thought of as you were saying this is, what size space? And have you ever figured out, in typical retail, like even bars and certainly supermarkets, they figure out the return per square foot.
Yes.
And have you guys ever figured that out?
Well, it's very, very challenging to do, but I'm going to tell all of you who are thinking about opening a store, the actual profit per square foot in this industry is off the charts. It is much, much higher than almost any industry. I mean, I went into a shop a couple of days ago in Orange County that just opened. I had been in touch with them. It's 600 square feet. But it's 600 square feet. That is beautiful. I mean, they did an awesome job. It doesn't feel claustrophobic. It doesn't feel congested. It doesn't feel anything bad. It's all good.
No waste space. They're making money there.
Well, they're just starting to make money. They actually opened the day before I was there on the 4th of July, and I wish them all the great success in the world. And I'm probably going to, matter of fact, I will do an article on them in addition to a couple of other businesses that are opening up locally here in the city that I write for in Orange County. All right, guys. Well, listen, this has been fun. I hope you've had a good time as well. This is Norm Bauer with Vape News Radio, again, the voice of vaping. And if you would like to share this with your friends, just please go ahead and hit the share button on vapenewsradio.com or go to Stitcher.com and share it with your friends. Otherwise, I'm going to be back in 2 weeks, and I'll bring you the latest updates on what's happening with the FDA, any new conferences, any new conventions, anything new happening in the vape space. Until then, you guys be good out there.
You've been listening to Vape News Radio with the voice of vaping himself, Norm Bauer, the Vape Mentor, asking the questions that everybody wants to have on their mind. How do I get into this rapidly growing space? Right here in Orange County's only community radio station, OC Talk Radio.